Good afternoon, and welcome to another incoherent episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here's your incompetent and inarticulate host, Voice of Doom. Thank you, Mr. Announcer. And although I like your spunk, you seem to be, going back to your old ways, and I don't think we're getting anywhere. I don't see why we can't iron these things out. Have a good working relationship. But you are right, it is an incoherent diatribe right now. Today, I think it's 19th of November. Because nothing really is going on. I mean, everything's still going on, but there isn't any immediate disaster that confronts us or some sort of a bombshell that might be a bombshell to one tribe and not to the other. So it's just more of the same, and I don't want to ramble on about more of the same, so I will ramble on. And I will give you little fictoids, which is not like a factoid. It's a new word I came up with, but I don't know if I quite have it figured out what the definition is. And a fictoid is a snippet of not necessarily true information, but laced with sarcasm. So I'll just go through a few things. Just jot down, like, one thing. One thing is Mr. Announcer and whether or not he actually exists, which calls into question my entire raison d'etre, you might say. Because if he doesn't exist, then I must be insane. And yet, I am getting signs that he really doesn't exist. So I have to work on that because I don't know who I've been arguing with. So that's fictoid number one. Now, I'm just going to talk about random stuff, tie it in with the fiasco, the chaos. Everybody complains you can never find good news on TV or whatever things people watch these days. You never have any good news on the news. And I beg to differ because I see it every day on weekdays, around 11 or so a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's on a major news network, and it's sometimes on other news networks. It's constant good news from the little red-haired girl. And when she's sick with a COVID flu, then it's Marie Jean-Pierre. And they always have good news. It's nothing but good news. And the great thing about their good news, or their show, is that they even take bad news and make it sound good. So I think I should tell you guys that there is good news on television. And it's on every day, on weekdays. Okay, the supply chain is disrupted because of the pandemic. So I guess there's still a pandemic going on. And I guess there's a lot of people in hospitals, and it's disrupting society. Although it seems like life is kind of normal, other than the fact that nobody knows when to wear a mask. Except you always have to wear one in a casino, except when you're drinking and smoking. Which occurred to me that if you are, say, infected and you're wearing a mask in a casino, then by taking your mask off to smoke, you would be blowing the germs off with the smoke. But I don't know anything about the physics of viruses and whether smoke would cause them to be dispersed more. We won't speak of such things. It's just that I'm just picturing those barges out there, sitting there no one unloading them because of the pandemic. And I'm picturing, stretchers and bodies and, open pits to burn all the bodies from the pandemic, and they can't unload the containers. Okay, the Rittenhouse jury has been out for 3 days, which I find interesting because they shouldn't have taken more than 5 minutes for the verdict. And yet they're taking 3 days, and I have a feeling that they had a verdict in 5 minutes, and now they're just using the 3 days to plan a class action suit against the prosecutor, because it's perfect for live TV, reckless endangerment. So I'm sure they're spending the 3 days doing that. That's much better time spent. Spikes and spikes. Just kind of a play on words, kind of Shakespearean in a way, because you got spikes in the spikes, and then you got the spikes. So everyone's worried about that, and Europe is shutting down again, and it's getting bad again, and who knows if this is the same variant, then we got a long way to go. There's a lot more variants, but I don't know. There's nothing there, nothing new. Just pandemic causes supply chain, which means no Christmas because there's no toys for the kids. So no Christmas. Jesus, sorry. We won't be celebrating your birthday this year because supply chain's broken. Anyway, I already got sarcastic about that. I'm not going to lambaste you people. Sudanese protests, I'll say one thing. They're way funner, even though they use real bullets to disperse them. These guys kind of got some catchy stuff. I mean, say what you will. Maybe it's stereotyping, but the Sudanese protests got a lot of rhythm. Now, I was upset by one thing because I saw this thing. I don't know what outlet it was. U.S. citizen in Afghanistan. He was a soldier. He was a sergeant. Can't get out. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he doesn't have an American accent. So people are like, okay, whatever. He can't get to the U.S. embassy in Pakistan. They're ignoring his calls or hanging up on him, or giving him the runaround, and it sounds really bad. I really feel sorry for these guys because there's probably 1,000 stories like this. But he's talking about people bribe people to get to the Pakistan border, and then they get turned in and sent back to the Taliban. So that's great. It was really kind of bad because they superimposed it with Petri dish touting his evacuation, and how they would never stop trying to get people out of Afghanistan. There's no time limit. But this guy can't get out, and he was a sergeant. I don't know, U.S. citizen. So that's what he said, and he can't get out. So Olympics, they're starting to talk about that now. And they said like it's in 3 months. So that's like February? Winter Olympics in February? I don't know when they do it. But they lit the torch. And there was people protesting while they were lighting the torch. And it's really sad because it's kind of a neat tradition to get the Olympic torch. But that torch has been in many evil places. Many. It's kind of a weird transposition or whatever it is. Can't think of the word right now. But just the Olympics is supposed to be an international cooperative, venture where all the countries get together to compete, but yet it's just soaked in evil. And I won't go into details about that. Veteran suicide. saw a Democrat congressperson, and their brother committed suicide. Her brother committed, he was a Vietnam vet, so it's nothing new. But I think she was trying to say something about limiting access to firearms in her soliloquy and epitaph. So, everything. I mean, okay, some member of your family uses a gun and now you're against guns. I understand that, but we have plenty of laws. You don't need to confiscate weapons. Mandates. What were the mandates about? Oh, they don't. Yeah, the Supreme Court said, yeah, who the hell do you think you are? The Petri dish. So there is still some justice, as opposed to, my thesis that there is no justice. There is some, because they said, you just can't tell companies that they have to mandate vaccinations. You just can't do that. 199, 2,050 people. How many people are in the company and how long, you give one little inch and then you take everything, and it's like, well, let's whittle it down. First, they're going to want to mandate any public venture, such as public school, which would be a blessing if they mandated vaccines to get into public school, because then more people would leave. Children heroes, touting guinea pigs openly. And I'm not saying that anything bad's going to happen. I'm just saying they're openly saying it. So why can't I say, yes, they're testing things out on people that are young, and so they're heroes. And they're wide open about it. They're not, so anything I say is not contrary to what they're saying. Yeah, they are heroes. But it just seems a little bit like a science fiction novel of some post-apocalyptic dystopia. And that's what we are turning into. So I wanted to talk about little snippets, and I did. And it's not very long, but just wanted to get a few things out. I'm not even yelling. I didn't even say too much about Petri dish and his, inability to achieve even the smallest thing. So we'll leave it at that. Not very exciting. I'm a bit lethargic. I have to go to work soon, start another week. 4 whole days in a row working. So yeah, I got it rough. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and pray for the world. Bye.